Before Vince continues, let me share about my life. I used to stutter and I used to be really quiet when I was little. I used to not say much because I really felt like I had not much to say anyway. I was fairly shy, plus I was a daddy's girl, but I would always run behind my mom and go under her skirt and try to really shy away and veer away from anyone and everyone whenever I felt uncomfortable. My sister was the smart one, was the pretty one, was the confident one, and I heard it over and over and over again. And as you can see, that did a lot to my self-confidence growing up. But up till now, I still look up to my sister, who's 2 years older than me.
Shorter.
And 2 inches and some more shorter than me. My family moved to Canada when I was very young, and our first home was actually a duplex right in front of a preschool and a grade school for a school for the deaf. And actually, that had a really nice playground, and we have so many wonderful childhood memories there, building snowmen, having snow fights, and using our own toboggans and all of that growing up. We were very far from the noisy, concentrated apartment rows where all the Filipino immigrants would move to. We had a blueberry vine right in front of our porch. And we were down the hill from the bus stop, the YMCA, so I was able to learn a lot of sports growing up. Now, all of those, I thought, wow, I really had a great life. I grew up in Montreal, a hotspot for immigrants from all the corners of the world who were forced to speak French for acceptance and survival. Alors, je parle un peu français, but let's not go there because I've forgotten already. Now, this is so amazing because I thought my life was really, really good. And then, my parents divorced. My mom moved to Toronto with my ate and my little brother, and I always felt that she didn't choose me, and instead, she chose them to be with her. Years into that kind of arrangement, them living in Toronto and me living with my dad and my kuya in Montreal, just seeing my mom and my siblings just a few times a year, a couple of days each time. My dad eventually introduced his girlfriend, and months after that introduction, she eventually moved in. Safe to say, I never liked her. During Halloween, I once drew a picture of her, and it was complete with her curly hair, her mole, and also I put some devil horns and fangs that was dripping with blood. Safe to say I got into a lot of trouble because I hung that for trick-or-treaters to come and knock at our door. That was one of the more innocent things that I did to express my ill feelings towards her. I was a handful. I was getting to be really rebellious. I did a lot of things purposely to make her miserable, but really it was to get my dad's attention. Eventually, when he couldn't handle a teenage girl anymore, he sent me to my mom. As a single parent, my mom balanced 3 jobs just to raise us. We lived in an apartment and we struggled financially. My dad gave very little, but my mom, she was too proud to ask. They always argued whenever they spoke on the phone, and we decided that they were not allowed to be in the same city at the same time. So they were separated by 600 kilometers, but even then, we really felt a lot of stress as children growing up with that kind of arrangement and that kind of environment and that kind of relationship between our mother and our father. It was really hard to harness peace in the family. It was a struggle. But good thing my sister, who acted like my parent, was always very patient with me. And like I said, she was 2 years older, but she could really forge my mom's signature to a T. Therefore, she really had to do all of those excuse letters for me to be able to skip class, because I really would just rather be with my friends and work. I sang in a Filipino choir called Santinig and formed a dance troupe even. Yes, I used to dance. I used to dance pretty good too. I used to be a backup dancer for a rap group that had 1 Filipino guy and 2 black guys. And there were 4 other Filipino girls in the dance troupe, and me and my sister actually were a tandem in teaching the moves for the troupe. So I really thought I was cool. Lots of my friends at that time, of course, being someone who was seen around school, it was easy to find friends. But my friends were into drugs and they were into drinking. I have to admit, I thought they were cool. Not that I got hooked into any of those, but I knew that I was in the wrong circle. I never really aimed high in life, and I was happy working as a salesperson in 9 West. Yes, I worked in 9 West, and I had to really be on my knees and put shoes on people because that was company rules. And I also worked at other retail shops selling clothes. Unfortunately, I didn't carry on the fashion sense. When I graduated, I was sent to the Philippines and ended up staying here because while my grandma was on her deathbed, she had asked for me to study here. You know what? My life changed making that decision. Two of my closest friends around that time got pregnant before they even turned 18. And they had to give up their popular, crazy lives because they were already tied to the responsibilities as teenage single moms. My sister always said, maybe if you had stayed in Canada, you would have ended up being a pregnant teenager with the father of your baby, juggling jobs, waiting on tables, and maybe delivering mail. I was taking up foreign languages in UP, but I ended up moving to UST because I was staying with relatives who were all taking up pre-med. You know what? It was really funny what happened to me there at UST. I ended up taking political science. I was voted class president. I was the president of the UST Freshman Chamber. I became part of the student council, and eventually, I was catapulted as the leader of the Students' Democratic Party. Well, so, for someone who was into crazy parties when I was in high school, in college it was totally different. I was running a political party. Everything has really changed. It was a huge leap and a big turnaround in my life. I would go around classrooms, I did a lot of talks, I would lead rallies. Yes, rallies, anti-cha-cha, while my leg was broken because I got into an accident. But with my crutch, I was able to go all the way to Mendiola. That was some of my early hosting experiences, shouting no to cha-cha. I was part of a group of students that got invited to be on a panel in a talk show in People's Television Network Channel 4. After that talk, the chairman of the station, guess what his name was? Mr. Hizon. Not him. Not even related. But Mr. Hizon at that time asked me to try out to be a newsreader. I don't know why, maybe because I was opinionated. A few days after that, I went back to PTV4 and did that audition, and to my shock, I got accepted. I was on TV weeks later doing the morning news breaks. Mind you, I was still in school. I would go to my afternoon classes with my full-on makeup, which of course amused everyone. Eventually, I got into hosting other shows like election specials, and I even hosted a show with former First Gentleman Mike Arroyo. I used to ride a presidential chopper and would go around the country. There was this one time we had to be evacuated because there were snipers around us and they were going to shoot the First Gentleman. But of course, God wouldn't have any of that because he probably had to do things to serve the country. Let's not give our own opinion on that. But at the same time, what was nice with that show called Exploring with Mike was we were going around the country to give help to the needy. One episode, we actually went down to Paco. And it was about families that were living along the Riles and were also living under the Paco Bridge. We went inside, under the bridge, to see the deplorable living conditions, and that really shook me. On my way back to the street level, walking away ahead of the Presidential Security Group and ahead of the First Gentleman, all of a sudden, it was this really cold, rough, and bony hands that grabbed my arm. I turned around and I saw this lady, gray-haired, hunched down, and she was crying. She said that she was going blind, but her family had already abandoned her. I learned later on that she was living off the graces of her neighbors who were living maybe in a space not bigger than this desk. Now, she was crying because she really was getting desperate and she wouldn't let go of my arm. You can just imagine how many tears or how much tears I shed that moment. I really didn't know what to do and I couldn't do anything. Of course, when the First Gentleman came, they gave her a little something, they gave her food. But I don't know if that really changed her life. So from that moment on, I decided I never wanted to do, or I never wanted to be in a situation where there was nothing that I could do to help. So I put up my foundation called the Every Day is Your Birthday Foundation, which is aimed at helping the needy. We target people to share their blessings through their birthdays, to share any kind of occasion actually, and celebrate it with the less fortunate, be it in orphanages or homes for the elderly. Because that moment changed me. I I don't think it was an old lady holding my hand. It was probably God who had sent her to grab my arm and not let go and make a dent that will stay in my life forever.